असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मा अमृतं गमय ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. This video is about trying to understand the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita through the commentary made by Sri Aurobindo. This is a slightly advanced subject but very profound and comprehensive and a very fresh and integral approach to the Gita. Sri Aurobindo was a freedom fighter who transitioned into a great yogi, mystic, scholar and a realized soul. He is in the same spiritual lineage of Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa and Swami Vivekananda. His philosophy has a lot of resemblance with Sri Ramakrishna's philosophy of Vijnana. Sri Aurobindo also believed in the infinitude of God and believed that it was God alone which has become everything. Some of the mystical experiences pertaining to the comprehension of the divine in all, Vasudeva Sarvam, of Sri Aurobindo are very similar to the mystical experiences of Sri Ramakrishna. Another great thing about Sri Aurobindo was that he was also a scholar and has written extensive commentaries on various Upanishads and the Bhagavad Gita, which will make us understand the scriptures in an unbiased manner and also in its fullest essence, as it has come from not just a philosopher or scholar but also a realized soul. Sri Aurobindo had commented on Bhagavad Gita in his book titled Essays on Gita. In this video, I will narrate selected slokas from the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, which is Gyana Vigyana Yoga, that is, the yoga of knowledge and realization, where the synthesis of knowledge and devotion takes place. I will narrate the sloka along with Sri Aurobindo's translation and commentary on it, which will help us understand Bhagavad Gita in its truest essence. For a couple of slokas, I will also include the explanation given by the Holy Mother. Thanks to Professor Anil Ben Roy, who was a great devotee of Sri Aurobindo, for compiling Sri Aurobindo's commentary on the Gita chapter-wise. It is to be noted that all slokas in chapter 7 of the Bhagavad Gita have been spoken by Bhagavan Sri Krishna, and there is no conversation with Arjuna in this chapter. I will now begin the narration. Sloka 2. Jnanam teham savijnanam idam vakshyam yasheshatah yajñātvā neha bhūyonyat jñātarvam avasishyate. I will speak to thee without omission or reminder the essential knowledge attended with all the comprehensive knowledge, by knowing which there shall be no other thing here left to be known. The implication of the phrase is that the Divine Being is all, Vasudeva Sarvam, and therefore, if he is known integrally in all his powers and principles, then all is known, not only the pure self, but the world and action and nature. There is then nothing else here left to be known, because all is that divine existence. It is only because our view here is not thus integral, because it rests on dividing mind and reason and the separative idea of the ego, that our mental perception of things is ignorance. We have to get away from this mental and egoistic view to the true unifying knowledge, and that has two aspects: the essential jnana and the comprehensive vijnana, the direct spiritual awareness of the Supreme Being and the right intimate knowledge of the principles of his existence, Prakriti, Purusha and the rest, by which all that is can be known in its divine origin and in the supreme truths of its nature. Sloka 4. Bhumirapo nalo vayuhu kammano buddhirevacha ahankara iti yamme bhinna prakritirashtratha. Earth, fire, water, air, ether, the 5 elements, conditions of material being, mind, reason and ego. This is my eightfold divided nature. Sloka 5. Apareyamidastvanyam prakritim viddhi me param jiva bhuta mahabaho yayedam dharyate jagat. This is the lower. Know too, O mighty armed, my other nature, different from this, the supreme which becomes the jiva and by which the world is upheld. Here is the first new metaphysical idea of the Gita, which helps it to start from the notions of Sankhya philosophy and yet exceed them and give to their terms a Vedantic significance. An eightfold nature consisted of the five bhutas, the mind with its various senses and organs, the reason will, and the ego, is the Sankhya description of Prakriti. The Sankhya stops there, and because it stops there, it has to set up an unbridgeable division between the soul and nature. It has to posit them as two quite distinct primary entities. The Gita also, if stopped there, would have to make the same incurable antimony between the self and cosmic nature, which would then be only the Maya of the three gunas, and all this cosmic existence would be simply the result of this Maya. It could be nothing else. But there is something else. There is a higher principle, a nature of spirit, Paraprakriti me. This is a supreme nature of the divine, which is the real source of cosmic existence and its fundamental creative force and effective energy, and of which the other lower and ignorant nature is only a derivation and a dark shadow. In his highest dynamics, Purusha and Prakriti are one. Prakriti, there is only the will and the executive power of the Purusha, his activity of being, not a separate entity, but himself in power. The original and eternal nature of spirit and its transcendent and originating Shakti is what is meant by the Paraprakriti. It is the integral conscious power of the Supreme Being, Chit Shakti, which is behind the self and the cosmos. In the immutable self, it is involved in the spirit. It is there, but in nivriti or holding back from action. In the mutable self and the cosmos, it comes out into action, pravriti. I will slightly deviate and narrate one of Sri Ramakrishna's most common statement. Sri Ramakrishna often used to say, that which is Brahman is also Shakti. When God is actionless, I call him Brahman. When God creates, preserves and destroys, I call him Shakti. This shows that Sri Aurobindo's belief was also very much in line with Sri Ramakrishna's. Coming back to Sri Aurobindo's commentary on the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Sri Aurobindo continues, the supreme nature, Paraprakriti, is then the infinite timeless conscious power of the self-existent being out of which all existences in the cosmos are manifested and come out of timelessness into time. Therefore, all things are initially, ultimately, and in the principle of their continuance to the spirit. The fundamental nature of all is the nature of spirit, and only in their lower differential phenomena do they seem to be something else, to be nature of body, life, mind, reason, ego, and the senses. But these are phenomenal derivatives. They are not the essential truth of our nature and our existence. Sloka 6. Etadhyonini bhutani sarvani tyupadaraya aham krishnasya jagatah prabhava pralayastata. Know this to be the womb of all beings. I am the birth of the whole world, and so too is dissolution. Here, the Supreme Soul, Purushottama, and the Supreme Nature, Paraprakriti, are identified. They are put as two ways of looking at one and the same reality. For when Krishna declares, I am the birth of the world and its dissolution, it is evident that it is this Paraprakriti, Supreme Nature of his being, which is both these things. The Spirit is the Supreme Being in his infinite consciousness, and the Supreme Nature is the infinity of power or will of being of the Spirit. It is his infinite consciousness in its inherent divine energy and its supernal divine action. Sloka 13. Tribir gunamayai bhavai rebis sarvamitam jagat mohitam nabhijanati mamebhya paramavyayam. By these three kinds of becoming, which are of the nature of the gunas, this whole world is bewildered and does not recognize me, supreme beyond them and imperishable. This lower nature of the three gunas, which creates so false a view of things and imparts to them an inferior character, is a maya, a power of illusion, by which it is not meant that it is all non existent or deals with unrealities, but that it bewilders our knowledge, creates false values, envelops us in ego, mentality, sense, physicality, limited intelligence, and there conceals from us the supreme truth of our existence. This elusive Maya hides from us the divine that we are, the infinite and imperishable spirit. If we could see that the divine is the real truth of our existence, all else would change to our vision, assume its true character, and our life and action acquire the divine values and move in the law of the divine nature. Sloka 14. Dhaivi hesha gunamayi मम माया धुरत्यया मामेव ये प्रपद्यन्ते मायामेतान्तरन्ति ते. This is my divine Maya of the gunas, which is hard to overcome. To me who turn and come, they alone cross over beyond this Maya. But why then, since the divine is there after all, and the divine nature at the root even of this bewildering derivations, since we are the jiva, and the jiva is that, is this Maya so hard to overcome? Maya dhuratyaya. Because it is still the Maya of the divine. Daivi hesha gunamayi mama Maya. This is my divine Maya of the gunas. It is itself divine and a development from the nature of divine. But the divine in the nature of the gods, it is Daivi, of the Godheads, or if you will, of the Godhead, but of the Godhead in its divided subjective and lower cosmic aspects, Sattvic, Rajasic, and Tamasic. It is a cosmic veil which the Godhead has spun around our understanding. Brahma, Vishnu, and Rudra have woven its complex threads. The Shakti, the supreme nature, is there at its base and is hidden in every tissue. We have to work out this web in ourselves and turn through it, and from it, leaving it behind us when its use is finished, turn from gods to the original and supreme Godhead, in whom we shall discover at the same time the last sense of the gods and their works and the inmost spiritual varieties of our own imperishable existence. Sloka 16. Chaturvida bhajante mam janaha suktino jrana artho jignasuratharthi jnani cha bharadashrabha. Four kinds of virtuous men love and adore me, O Arjuna. Those in distress, those seeking for good in the world, the seekers after knowledge, and those who have knowledge, O best of Bharatas. All are approved by the Gita, but only on the last does it lay the seal of its complete sanction. All these movements without exception are high and good, but bhakti with knowledge excels them all. Sloka 17. Tesham jnani nityayuktaha ekabhaktirvishishyate priyo hi jnani notyartam aham sachamama priyaha. Of these, the knower, who is ever in constant union with the divine, whose devotion is all concentrated on him, is the best. I am supremely dear to the knower, and he is dear to me. Sloka 18. Udhara sarva evaite jnani tvatmaiva me matam astitas sahi yuktatma tameva nuktamangatim. Noble are all these without exception, but I hold the knower as verily myself, for he, the soul in union, accepts me as his highest goal. Holy Mother beautifully explains this by this statement. When the God lover is also the God knower, the lover becomes oneself with the beloved, for he is the chosen of the Most High and the elect of the Spirit. Develop in yourself this God engrossed love. The heart spiritualized and lifted beyond the limitations of its lower nature will reveal to you most intimately the secrets of God's immeasurable being, bringing to you the whole touch and influx and glory of His divine power, and open to you the mysteries of an eternal rapture. It is perfect love that is key to perfect knowledge. Sri Aurobindo continues. The Gita distinguishes between three initial kinds of bhakti: that which seeks refuge in the divine from the sorrows of the world, that which, desiring, approaches the divine as the giver of its good, and that which, attracted by what it already loves but does not yet know, yearns to know this divine unknown. But it gives the palm to the bhakti that knows. Evidently, the intensity of passion which says, I do not understand, I love, and loving cares not to understand, is not love's last self expression but its first, nor is it its highest intensity. Rather, as knowledge of the divine grows, delight in the divine and love of it must increase. Nor can mere rapture be secure without the foundation of knowledge. To live in what we love gives us that security, and to live in it means to be one with it in consciousness. And oneness of consciousness is the perfect condition of knowledge. Knowledge of the divine gives to love of the divine its firmest security, opens to it its own widest joy of experience, raises it to its highest pinnacles of outlook. Sloka 19. Bahunam janmanamante jnanavan ma prapatyate vasudeva sarvamiti samahatma sudhullabha. At the end of many births, the man of knowledge attains to me and sees that Vasudeva, the omnipresent being, is all that is. Such a great soul is very rare. Sloka 21. Yo yo yam yam tanum bhaktah shraddaya chitumicchati tasya tasya chalam shraddam tameva vitadamyaham. Whatever form of me any devotee with faith desires to worship, I make that faith of his firm and undeviating. Sloka 22. Sataya shraddaya yuktah tasyaradhanamihate labhate cha tatak kaman mayaiva vihitan hitan. He, endowed with that faith, worships that form, and by that he obtains his desires. Verily, it is I myself who give these to him. The Holy Mother comments on this sloka, saying, by seeking all his good from the divine, he shall come in the end to seek in divine all his good. By depending for his joys on the divine, he shall learn to fix in the divine all his joy. By knowing the divine in his forms and qualities, he shall come to know him as the all and transcendent, who is the source of all things. I will conclude this narration with one more sloka along with Sri Aurobindo's commentary, which kind of summarizes the essence of this chapter and synthesizes devotion and knowledge perfectly. Sloka 28. Yesham tvantagatam papam jananam punyakarmanam te dvandvamoha nirmukta bhajante mam dridavratah. But those men of virtuous deeds, in whom the sin has come to an end, they, freed from the delusion of the dualities, worship me steadfast in the vow of self-consecration. The first necessity in our works is to get clear of the sin of vital ego, the fire of passion, the tumult of desire of the rajasic nature, and this has to be done by the steadying sattvic impulse of the ethical being. When that is done, Yesham tvantagatam papam jananam punyakarmanam. Or rather, as it is being done, for after a certain point, all growth in the sattvic nature brings an increasing capacity of high quietude, equality, and transcendence. It is necessary to rise above the dualities and to become impersonal, equal, oneself with the immutable, oneself with all existences. This process of growing into the spirit completes our purification. But while this is being done, while the soul is enlarging into self knowledge, it has also to increase in devotion. Equality and vision of unity, once perfectly gained, Thedvandva Mohanir Mukta, a supreme bhakti, an all embracing devotion to the divine, becomes the whole and sole law of the being. All other law of conduct merges into that surrender, Sarvadharman Parityajya. The soul then becomes firm in this bhakti and in the vow of self consecration of all its being, knowledge, works. For it has now, for its sure base, its absolute foundation of existence and action, the perfect, the integral, the unifying knowledge of the all originating Godhead. Te bhajante mam dridavratah. Thus, by spiritual development, devotion becomes one with knowledge. The jiva comes to delight in the one Godhead. He is ever in constant union with Him, Nitya Yukta. His whole life and being are an eternal yoga with the transcendent, than whom there is nothing higher, with the universal besides whom there is none else and nothing else. On Him is concentrated all his bhakti, Eka Bhakti, not on any partial Godhead rule or cult. This single devotion is his whole law of living, and he has gone beyond all creeds of religious beliefs, rules of conduct, personal aims of life. He has no griefs to be healed, for he is in possession of the all blissful. He has no desires to hunger after, for he possesses the highest and all, and is close to the all power that brings all fulfillment. He has no doubts or baffled seekings left, for all knowledge streams upon him from the light in which he lives. He loves perfectly the divine and is his beloved. For as he takes joy in the divine, so too the divine takes joy in him. This is the God lover who has the knowledge, Jnani Bhakta. I will conclude this by chanting Sri Aurobindo's Gayatri Mantra. Om Tatsavithurvaram Rupam Jyotirparasya Dhimahi Yannah Satyena Deepayet Satyena Deepayet. Om Sthapakaya cha dharmasya Sarvadharmasvarupine Avatara Varishtaya Ramakrishnaya